I'm going to start with research. And Richard Mayer is at UC Santa Barbara. And someday I hope to meet him. And he has this great chart here that I wanted to share because he has done a lot of work about sort of how and why you would match a content type with a graphical type. And so this is just an example that he lays out in the book. But, if we take the first example, it's like, okay, if the content type is facts, then a useful graphic type that he lists is this representational organizational. And then there's an example, which is like a screen capture, right? And so he's just laying out for you what I'm going to talk to you a lot more about, which is everybody tends to think about video as the media type that exists for the work that we all do. And it is one of them. And there are many others. And so if there's anything you take away from this, it's that the content that you are trying to put into a media format is going to be best suited for one or two of those and not all of them. And it might not be video. And that's totally exciting for me. And maybe it will be for you too. Who knows? The other article that we are often sharing through the Center for Teaching and Learning and then in our department also is this paper by Cynthia Brame, and this is video specific. It's a great way to refresh yourself with what the research says about creating effective educational videos. And she talks about that you really need to be attending to your students' cognitive load, their engagement, and their active learning, and that there are ways to specifically do that. Segmenting is one, which we will discuss very soon. One is for cognitive load, highlighting important information. And an example of that is like highlighting the bullet point or the exact term in your bullet point on your slide that you want students to notice, right? The other one that I think is really under spoken about and takes a ton of work, but is so effective is eliminating extraneous information. So we are all familiar going to a lecture where there is a slide full of text and images, and it's real busy, and we're trying to listen to someone while we're trying to figure out what they're showing us, and you cannot do both. You cannot. And so you're either missing what they're saying or you're not seeing what they're showing you. And so eliminating extraneous information from your slides is a massive way that you can serve your students. In terms of student engagement, conversational tone, just like acting like a person because you are. And I think anytime we start recording ourselves, all of us have this kind of reaction like, oh, I have to be a way that I'm not. And it's just like, no, you don't. Please don't do that if you can possibly help it. And then in terms of active learning, interactivity is really important. And then also if you can make videos or really any media type part of a larger assignment, if it's hooked into, we need you to, post in the discussion forum about this video. Any way that you can loop things in is a great service to your students and learning. And then we'll also talk a little bit about interactivity in a minute when I talk about active versus passive media. So let's just start with media planning, which is basically the stuff that you have to think about before you even consider recording anything or making anything. There's research that people are always sharing, which is like 6-minute lectures is, students' attention spans are small. Your lectures need to be short. That is some of the data, but also there's data about in your course, if students expect that lectures are going to be 40 minutes long, that can work too. It's all about like creating that culture inside of your classroom. However, the thing that I think is most important about segmenting is that you're not just slicing and dicing, you're actually matching your content with fitting media types. And this is like the art of what I like to do. And so you're like letting your ingredients speak to you. You're like thinking about, okay, is this the like in the weeds, super quantitative epidemiological data? Or is this I'm telling a story about my lab experience because I'm teaching you through my story? Those are very different, and they will help your students if they are matched with the media type that really elevates that content. So let's talk media types. The first one is talking head video. And this is great if you're storytelling. And it's especially great if your expression, your facial expressions, your body expression, your gestures, and your surroundings are essential to what you're trying to communicate. And so this is just a screenshot from David Brockman's Politics of Public Policy course. I mean, we've all recorded ourselves now, probably more than we would like. So we're all familiar with this. But what I want you to think about here is I'm being very specific about what I'm saying should become a talking head video, because all of us stop looking at the video after about a minute or two if there's no new information coming at us, and then we just start listening. And so because we like to listen, there's audio only podcast style. And that's if sounds, archival media clips, or music are essential to what you're trying to convey, and particularly if visuals are not essential. And this media type is like my favorite because I find the ability to engage as a student and listen to something while, say, looking at a PDF that my instructor has prepared for me, that is very active learning. I am listening. I'm not locked into a screen. I don't have to feel like I have to stare at something that's not giving me any more information. And then I'm looking, say, at the textbook, or I'm looking at a PDF that the instructor is telling me, like, now look at the second image on your PDF. We're going to dive into that now. Like, that's media segmenting and matching media content at its best. And then this is just an example. This is Laura Nelson from her Gender, Race, Nation, and Health course, recording at home during COVID. If you're lecturing with slides, graphics, or demos, then screen recording. And we're all really familiar with this. Like, this is just slides only. Obviously, if you're using Zoom, then your face will be in the corner. But you can also just do, you can do the old fashioned, like, record your slide deck, record your voice. And saying that it's old fashioned, I don't mean that it's not cool. It's super cool if it matches what your content is, right? And this is from Josh Jackson's Introduction to Media Studies course. And this is, we use this all the time, and it's an incredible tool if it fits the content. If you're annotating, this is, indispensable in like STEM, tablet screen recording. And this is just an example from Carrie Kaufman's Intro to Statistics course. The fifth media type is if you want to record like a Zoom conversation, if you're talking to subject matter experts, and this can be audio or video. So Zoom, every time you record, is going to kick out an audio file and a video file to you. And so I always like to remind folks of this because this is super versatile. You can segment a single subject matter expert conversation that's, say, an hour long into 2 or 3 segments based on the subject matter. Or do you just want them to see the two of you talking for 10 minutes? And then for the last maybe 40 minutes, you want to segment that out and just deliver that to them as an audio file, because then they can listen to that while they're like riding the bus home or whatever. So please do think about ways that you can further segment single things that you've created. Then a top tip for just any video that you're recording, especially if you're slide sharing, if you can add visual signposts that are like chapters so that students can skim, especially when you're creating asynchronous content. And if you're recording something live, this is also really good practice, because if you're recording it for later, it really is helpful for students to rewatch and find the spot that they need. Also, text is a media type, and text is my favorite media type because it is far more active in terms of active learning than video is. Video is like plug and play. I'm hitting play and I'm completely passive, right? I'm just watching what you're showing me. But text, I'm choosing to read it. I'm skipping around. I'm doing all sorts of things in the learning process. And so I'm really into thinking about text as a media type. And when you're thinking about putting lecture material online, think about if you have material that really needs time for your students to digest, if you have lists or statistics, the way for students to learn this is often much better suited, like if you use a page from B courses and put it on there, like Eula Taylor did in her Modern History of Civil Rights class. So you can also do a PDF. It can be a Google Doc. And again, like I said, you can have PDF text while with an audio that you're helping students tour through. This is just so much more active. It is active learning instead of video, which is actually passive. Images are also media types. And this is just another example from Tom McCanney's Sounding American course. This was his lecture material, and he converted it into text with images instead of, say, recording himself with the slides. He chose to do this instead. So this is the rundown of all the media types that I just walked you through. And to riff off of the mayor's table that I showed you in the beginning from the Multimedia Learning Book, I created this just for quick reference. I set it up this way because you can locate your content type or mode on the left side and then see what it matches with best on the right. And I mean, this is obviously in my expert opinion, but you will find connections that aren't shown here. And then I'm also highlighting at the bottom the active media is for the text and the images, just because I think that's something important to remind folks of.